Today I want to share my March makes and share a little bit about life. If you're interested in hearing about this, stay tuned. Welcome to Friday Sews. My name is Cynthia and you're watching Mountain Accent Sewing. If you're new to my channel, I mainly talk about sewing, but I do like to share nature and life, and I've got a little bit of both to share today. Now, if you've watched my previous videos over the last few weeks, you'll know that I have been battling the spring allergies. They have really been rough this year. I'm doing a lunchtime Friday sew, so I'll be inserting pictures of my makes. This is, I think, my second time doing the lunchtime Friday sews, but I wanted to share my March makes. The first item that I made was another Helen's Closet Jackson tee. Now, I purchased this ocean pearl knit fabric at Sewing Studio in Asheville, and for my neckline I used just a rib knit. Made a size large, and it's just a perfect oversized tee that will get lots of wear this summer and fall, because it will just be a nice everyday t-shirt. So yeah, that was just a quick, easy make, which I haven't had a lot of time for sewing or felt like sewing much. So it was nice to get another, what I consider, palette cleanser made. As you may know, I've been procrastinating on my Fabric Wheel of Fate make out of this beautiful viscose fabric that I have. I've had a tough time narrowing down patterns, and I have finally picked the pattern, and hopefully I'll get to sew on that this week or this weekend and get that out to you soon. I promise it is coming. I haven't given up on that project, but I have picked a pattern. But while I was still stewing over the patterns, I pulled out a whip. I had one whip in my cabinet that I cut out last year, and it was another pair of True Buys Lander shorts. If you may recall that I made a pair of green Lander shorts, and it was the regular one with the button-up fly. I decided to purchase the zipper fly extension and do one with a zipper. And I've made this in a beautiful red linen fabric. And this red linen, I purchased that fabric from Andrea at Beyond the Pink Door, I think sometime last year, maybe the year before, but I did purchase it from her shop. And the zipper and the button I had in my stash. And I've made a few adjustments to this. I made the full belly adjustment, and I've changed my side seam. I think I have a little bit more narrow seam allowance than on some of my previous versions because of gaining a little bit of weight. And other than that, I've made the same size that I've previously sewn with just that minor adjustment, because it does give you like a wider seam allowance, like I think it's 1 inch, and then that gives you room to adjust that as needed. Now, this was a beautiful fabric to sew. I'd had to use white chalk to mark the right side and the wrong side when I was cutting it out, so I keep my pieces straight. And I've added a beautiful label for my stash. It's one of the Aim for the Stars, and I don't recall who makes that one, but I really like the way it looks. And then I wanted to share what I did with my top stitching of my waistband. I was so proud of myself. I was working one evening, and you know you shouldn't sew when you're tired, but I did. I was getting tired, and I said, oh, I'll go ahead and finish this top stitching. And I had just redid my bobbin, and I did a test strip. It was fine, but then when I went to the top stitch, my machine was making a funny noise, but I kept top stitching the entire thing, and then realized that the bobbin had created a rat's nest on the inside. And I've taken a picture of a little section because I then spent the next day unpicking that entire top stitching for the entire waistband and redid it. So I'm glad I redid it because it really was it looked so bad before I unpicked all that. So yeah, my tip is don't sew when you're tired. And that is the only 2 garments I completed in March. And like I said, part of my time with my sewing is that I was thinking about patterns for my fabric wheel of fate. So I have finally picked the pattern and I'll start working on that. So that is all my sewing content. I want to talk a little bit about life. If you follow my channel for long, you'll know that I live in Western North Carolina, and we were hit by Hurricane Helene during 2024, September 27th, 2024. And a lot of our neighboring communities are still struggling or in the recovery process. And so a lot of these communities that have had to have roads rebuilt, bridges rebuilt, houses, businesses rebuilt. Some will never be able to be rebuilt. But Chimney Rock, North Carolina, was one of the hard-hit areas. And over the previous weekend, they finally reopened Highway 64 that went from Hendersonville, North Carolina into Chimney Rock. And so we went on a day trip with some friends and visited Chimney Rock, and I'll insert a few photos. It's still very sad to see because you can see just the level of destruction that was there. And then I spoke with one owner of a gift shop where I bought some wonderful fudge that was made locally and had some ice cream. She was telling me like her dad's business, he owned a restaurant there. They'd been there for many years. He'd opened it in the 80s, and it was completely destroyed and washed away, and he chose not to rebuild. But she has opened her gift shop, and she was talking about how they are still struggling, and that they need the tourist because they depend on the tourism for a lot of their income. And so we did go through some of the shops, and we ate at one of the local restaurants and had a delicious burger. Unfortunately, on the day that we were there, there was a wildfire nearby that was caused from a down power line that caused a power outage. So some of the businesses were closed because they didn't have backup power. The ones that were open had generators, or they were doing cash only. And so, yeah, we visited there, and I've inserted some pictures. And I think that I would like to visit some of the other towns that are struggling and support them also. So if you in this area, go check out Chimney Rock, North Carolina. They are getting back on their feet, and they will welcome tourists. I also got in a very short hike. It was when I say short, it was maybe I did maybe a half mile to these waterfalls. So round trip it was about a mile. And my parents did go with me. Now I've talked about my dad being sick, and so he's not up to those long hikes anymore, and I think even this one was hard on him. But we went to see Whitewater Falls. That's near Sapphire, North Carolina, or I think it's close to Bad Creek, South Carolina, because I'm not sure if it's in North Carolina or South Carolina. It's real close to the state line. Anyway, we went to see Whitewater Falls, and they were beautiful. And so I was happy just to get that little short walk in, but I'm not getting to hike like I want to hike. And yeah, so back to my dad. I have gotten permission to share that he has MDS, which is a myelodysplastic syndrome. Basically, it's a bone marrow cancer, and it's he's had it for years, but it has advanced to the point where he is doing chemo, and so he is much weaker, and yeah, getting very fatigued, and may have other complications, but I've appreciated both my parents for all that they've, been able to do with me and the time we've spent together. And I do miss our long hikes, but I'm glad that he was able to go on this little short one. And I'll insert a picture that a kind lady took of us, and the lake in the background is Lake Jocassee in South Carolina, because there is a view of that lake from the trail that takes you to Whitewater Falls. Hope you've enjoyed what I've shared today, and I hope that you'll come back and see me in my next video. I would love it if you would click like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.